I need to get from here to somewhere out over this ridge line so that I can actually put these Kumho Road Venture RTs to the test. Now, I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona, and anytime I do an off-road video, I always get a comment from somebody who's like, well, how are they in the snow? Typically my response is, well, I'm in the desert, I have no idea. But I actually took this up to the Snow Bowl and put these tires through their paces. Well, this got out of hand pretty quickly.
Oh, nice.
Don't do that. Oh, don't do that.
I'm about done.
Now, for what it's worth, you could say, well, you live in Phoenix. What do you know about snow? I come from Buffalo, New York originally. I know plenty about snow, and I actually have a lot to say about these tires. Let's get on the trail and see how these things do. Now, is this a good idea? No, it is absolutely not. But I wanted to get out here and really test these tires out on a familiar trail. I have taken many a side-by-sides out here. And typically speaking, I don't like to bring my truck back here because it gets pretty tight in a pickup truck. Where are we at? 8 degrees, 18-degree bank, 16-degree bank. This is where you start feeling the weight of these heavier trucks, whereas the side-by-side, you can just blast right through this stuff. Let's get out and move that rock. This is quite a bit for this big old truck. Not sure if I'm gonna get back to where I wanna be. Man, these are some pucker moments. We're so close. 18 degrees, 20 degrees side angle. A little bit of rub in there. We're close. I think we have like 2 more turns to get around. We made it. Now the question is, how are we getting up here? You want to see how the drone and GoPros flatten things out? This is what I'm looking at in person, but I think I should be able to come straight up. I think I want to come up this way. We're so close. We're made it this far. We're not turning around now. Approach and departure angle are a thing here. As I was coming up here, I'm like, man, I'm proud that I made it up here, but I might be more proud if I hadn't, and I'm still not sure. But talking about these Kumho Road Venture RTs. Now, when Kumho actually announced these tires, they flew me out to an event and I was able to test them. So I actually know these things do really well in the mud. I was really, really surprised how well these things handled. I knew coming out here off-road that they were going to do just fine. They are an absolutely amazing off-road tire. I would highly recommend it. But what really attracted me the most to this Kumho RT is that, look, we're all building our trucks out. We like them to look rough, tough, and rugged. But when I was out testing these things, I was like, man, these things are actually strangely quiet for how aggressive this tread is. These seem quieter than my AT. Now, I currently have over 1,000 miles or just about 1,000 miles on these tires. And this, which is a 35 12.5 R17 tire, this is an LT tire, harder sidewall, all of that, still is holding up to be an incredibly quiet tire. These are replacing the Toyo Open Country ATIIIs that I had on the truck prior to. And one thing I'll tell you is that this tire is by far quieter throughout the entire speed range. The Open Countries, I did notice a bit of a hum around like 28 to 30 miles an hour. Not just a hum, but actually a little bit of a vibration in the wheel. These do not have that. The only critique that I have out of these tires is I wish they would have these 35 by 11.5 instead of 12.5 wide, because personally I actually think that 11.5 is a much better size tire for a daily truck. If you look at a forum on any truck that exists, on the market. I don't care if it's a Ram, Toyota. You'll see so many conversations around what is the largest size tire I can fit on my truck. And truth is, it's not necessarily, well, the 35s certainly make a big difference, but the width of the tire makes a huge difference in how it rotates around and makes contact with the wheel well. Now let's talk about the snow rating. I have gone down a huge rabbit hole on the whole snow tire rating, which 3-peak does not mean snow tire. It just means that they go through this test, which essentially is just an acceleration test. And if they are able to accelerate within a certain specification, that's what gets that 3-peak stamp. Now, my experience with these things in the snow was incredible. As somebody who has spent a boatload of time driving in snowy conditions, I tend to not be a super apprehensive snow driver, but this is the worst kind of conditions, which is freshly fallen, freshly wet, 31 degrees, no salt on the road. This is where you've really got to worry about ice. So there's a little hum on these things from about 35 down to 25, and then it goes away. So I think that's just from tires being colder than normal, than what I'm used to. As we're sitting at 29 degrees, making that rubber a little bit harder and making it make a little more road noise. I need to stop and buy some below 32 windshield washer fluid. It froze up. Let's see how two-wheel drive does. Certainly breaking them loose, but plenty of traction. Couple inches of snow there. Traction control is kicking in. Actually, pretty good stopping power. This whole road is just straight up ice underneath the snow, so I don't want to. Let's try to lock it up here, I guess. ABS active. That's pretty good to me. Well, this got out of hand pretty quickly. I was not anticipating getting into iced snow roads. These are really, really bad. There's actually a truck off the road because of that. My truck actually hasn't had ABS kick in once, but I've seen a lot of other vehicles locked up sliding down this. So, all right, calm down, windshield wipers. This is as good as I ever would need from a snow tire, which isn't a snow tire. It's not even 3-peak rated, but this has been incredibly confidence-inspiring here. It made me really start thinking about, do I even want that 3-peak snow rating, and who wants that? And this clip right here, if you're somebody when you're switching lanes, you think it's a great idea to tap the brakes as you go through that kind of middle of the road slushiness, you should probably get 3-peak rated tires. If you're somebody who, when trucks that have 4-wheel drive go by you faster and you sit there and start thumbing your nose at truck people because you think that they don't get it, you probably should get 3-peak snow rated tires. The truth is, you'll be just fine with these tires. In 4-wheel drive, I had no problems with them at all. Even in 2-wheel drive, which I put it in to kind of test and fishtail out the back of the truck, they handled like any other tire that I've ever had on any vehicle before. So if you live in the snow belt and you're really a timid driver and you're really concerned about that 3-peak rating, then yeah, go ahead and buy it. But if you're somebody who is a pretty decent driver in the snow, have never found yourself in a ditch, and can kind of handle your own, these Road Venture RTs are not just okay, they're absolutely amazing. I had no issues in the snow bowl. Now, what was funny is I actually drove up north and found myself in a situation where I got up there and was like, man, it's not really snowing all that much. And I started kind of going up a mountain. And as I was going up the mountain, I started noticing a lot of cars coming down. And that snow was super glossed over, which basically meant it was like ice glass, and I was watching them come down and they were just sleds. And I was like, all right, maybe it's my time to flip around and head back down the mountain, because if they're all coming down, there's probably a reason for it. So I did, I flipped around. Now that storm also kicked up and ended up being a huge nightmare trying to get out of the snowball or Flagstaff area, and I found myself driving through quite a bit more than I kind of bargained for. And again, no problem. I thought these tires handled incredibly well for not being snow rated tires, and I just don't see the need for that 3-peak rating. That's my opinion. Drop in the comments down below, what do you think? A couple things I actually wanted to jump in here and mention real quick is that Kumho actually does have an AT52, which is a 3-peak snow rated tire. This one is not. And ultimately I was just trying to prove the point that I don't really think that you need it. The RTs, they rate on the website as being a 7 out of 10 in terms of snow traction, and the AT52s are an 8 out of 10. So even in their own grading system, they only rate that one higher than the RTs. So that's important to note. And then the other thing I wanted to mention here is that in order to get rid of the rubbing, I have added on the rough country mud flap deletes. And let's just say they are the cheapest option that I found, and I just ordered them and kind of ran with it, figuring how much can you possibly spend on something like this? Well, I ended up actually having to modify these quite a bit, and you can see the fitment is still not perfect here. I need to try to get that to pop up there, but I actually had to sand this down and get the clearance. I think now it probably won't rub at all. I also went above and beyond to do this at what I think is probably the lowest level of this suspension. I will be coming in here and actually adjusting the collar on the shock here to actually pick up the truck just a little bit more, and I think that'll actually make it even clear even more. But again, you know, I did have to come in here and make quite a few modifications. Ended up sanding this down, cutting this corner quite a bit, 3D printing a panel there, and then backfilling it with a whole bunch of epoxy and just kind of reshaping it with the rotary tool, and I think I've got it pretty well there. So I will drop a link in the description down below for these Kumho Road Venture RTs. If you're interested, you can check them out. Highly recommend them. I've had them again for about 1,000 miles, rain, snow, off-road, and they handle everything incredibly well, and they're a great daily driving tire. So with that said, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time. I need to find my way back out of here without destroying my truck.